When we talk about attraction, especially the subtle, often confusing early moments of romantic interest, we have to start with the eyes. Not just because they're romanticized as the windows to the soul, but because biologically and psychologically, eye contact is one of the most primal ways we connect with another human being. Before words are exchanged, before we know each other's names, before we even make a conscious decision to be interested, we see each other. And in that moment, whether we know it or not, something is already happening. Attraction in its purest form is often not verbal. It's energetic, it's unconscious. And eye contact is one of the first channels through which that unconscious energy travels. Now, we're not talking about staring contests or the overt gaze that feels performative. We're talking about the moments in between. The flickers of interest, the return glances, the subtle pauses that stretch just a bit too long. In modern dating psychology, eye contact serves as both an invitation and a test. It's a low-risk, high-information exchange. When a woman makes eye contact with you, not once, but repeatedly, it isn't always accidental. It's often a form of social scanning. She's reading you. She's asking silently, do I feel seen by you? Do you see me as I see myself? Are you safe? Are you real? This is especially interesting when we think about the work of Esther Perel, who emphasizes the tension between desire and safety, between the known and the unknown. Eye contact lives exactly in that tension. It's intimate and yet ambiguous. You can't always be sure what it means. That uncertainty is what makes it so powerful. Because the truth is, we don't just want to be desired, we want to be chosen consciously, seen in a way that feels intentional. Let's break this down a bit further. When someone is attracted to you, their nervous system responds. Pupils dilate. The blink rate increases. There may even be a slight flush in the skin. But unlike other signs of attraction, eye contact is something a person can choose to engage in or avoid. So when a woman maintains eye contact with you, especially in situations where there's no practical need to, like during casual conversation or across the room in a group setting, she's making a decision, even if it's not a fully conscious one. And that's important, because a lot of dating advice treats attraction as a game of decoding tricks or hacks. But what we're really looking for in all these small cues is psychological alignment. The question is not just, is she attracted to me? But is there a mutual recognition happening here? Are we sharing the same unspoken moment? One study in the field of nonverbal behavior found that mutual eye contact, that is, when two people look into each other's eyes at the same time for longer than a fleeting second, creates a neurological response associated with bonding. Oxytocin levels rise. There's a sense of synchrony, as if the two nervous systems are briefly dancing in rhythm. It's not necessarily love, but it is connection, and connection is the seed of attraction. Esther Perel talks about how we long for what is just out of reach, what we don't fully possess. Eye contact allows for that longing to live in real time. It creates a space where both people can feel exposed, but not yet claimed. It's mutual, but not controlling. And that's why it can be such a reliable early sign of interest. When someone keeps looking at you, even when they don't need to, they're telling you, I want to know more. I see something here. But, and this is critical, it's not just about being looked at. It's about what happens when you look back. That reciprocity is everything. If you return the gaze, do her eyes soften? Does she hold it? Does she smile or quickly glance away only to return seconds later? These micro moments are often more telling than anything that will be said aloud. They are emotional fingerprints, unique, delicate, and yet incredibly informative. We must also be careful not to read too much into a single moment. True attraction is rarely based on one cue alone, but repeated, meaningful eye contact, especially when it occurs in emotionally neutral settings, can often be a doorway into deeper connection. It invites curiosity, and where curiosity is sustained, intimacy begins. So when you notice those glances across the room, or the moment where she holds your gaze just a little longer than necessary, don't dismiss it as coincidence. But don't rush to label it either. Allow yourself to be present. Respond with your own awareness. The goal is not to win the moment, but to understand it, to stay attuned to the dance between visibility and mystery. And remember this, the eyes don't lie, but they do speak in metaphor. Attraction through eye contact is rarely loud, it whispers. Your job is not to interrogate it, but to listen. If you want to understand desire, you have to learn to pay attention to the subtle. Attraction rarely arrives with a banner or a declaration. It comes quietly. And often it speaks through the eyes, but not in the ways we usually think. It's not just about long romantic gazes or cinematic stares across a room. Often, the real signs are far more nuanced, tucked into micro behaviors that happen in fractions of a second. And yet they can reveal more than words ever could. In the realm of dating psychology, what we're really studying isn't just behavior. It's timing, it's intention, it's the emotional undercurrent that lives beneath every look and glance. A woman who is attracted to you may not be ready, or even fully conscious of how she feels. But her eyes might already be telling the story. And it's a story worth learning to read. Let's start with one of the most telling yet misunderstood cues, pupil dilation. Biologically, our pupils expand when we're looking at something or someone we find interesting, desirable, or stimulating. It's an involuntary response. We can't fake it. So when you're talking to someone and her pupils widen while maintaining eye contact, it's not just a visual effect. It's the body signaling that it's engaged, attentive, and possibly aroused. Then there are the rapid, fleeting glances followed by quick lookaways. This kind of eye movement often occurs when someone feels seen and maybe a little exposed. Imagine this: you look over at her and she's already looking at you. She immediately looks down or away and then a moment later glances back again. This is not disinterest. This is the dance of uncertainty. She may not want to be obvious, or maybe she's still evaluating how safe it feels to show her attraction. But the fact that she comes back, that return glance, is what speaks volumes. Another sign, one that people often overlook, is increased blink rate. Now, this isn't about someone blinking nervously or erratically. What we're talking about is a slightly accelerated blink rhythm that tends to happen during emotional stimulation. If she's looking at you and her eyes are active, blinking a little more than usual, even fluttering lightly, this may indicate a surge of energy in her nervous system. Think of it as her body keeping up with the emotional intensity of the moment. And what about the woman who maintains steady eye contact, but pairs it with a smile that rises slowly? That combination is particularly powerful. It tells you that she's not just being polite, she's emotionally engaged. She's letting herself linger in that moment of connection. The timing of the smile matters here. If it comes before the eye contact, it's probably just social behavior. But if it unfolds during the eye contact, or because of it, you're witnessing something more genuine, perhaps even intimate. Esther Perel often talks about the space between certainty and ambiguity as the birthplace of erotic tension. And these eye contact cues live exactly in that space. They aren't guarantees, but they invite curiosity. They say, something is happening here, but I'm not sure what yet. That ambiguity is what makes it so compelling. And if you try to force clarity too soon, if you need to label or define everything immediately, you often lose the very energy that's drawing the two of you together. Eye movements also serve as emotional regulators. A woman might look at you, then glance down, then look back, not because she's unsure of her feelings, but because she's regulating the intensity of the connection. Too much too fast can feel overwhelming, so she paces herself. These small pauses aren't rejections, they're boundaries. They're part of how attraction maintains its rhythm. There's also something to be said about the moments of sustained eye contact in silence. Not every powerful glance comes during conversation. Sometimes the most electric eye contact happens when nothing is being said at all. You catch each other's gaze and neither of you looks away. In that space, time stretches. It's not about control or confidence, it's about presence. In those moments, attraction becomes less about performance and more about recognition. I see you. You see me. Something is happening. But, and this is crucial, not every prolonged glance is a sign of romantic interest. Sometimes people are naturally expressive. Some cultures encourage more eye contact than others. That's why context always matters. Eye cues are never standalone data points. They're part of a broader emotional landscape, and they need to be interpreted with sensitivity, not certainty. So what do you do with all of this? You don't memorize a checklist, you notice. You become more attuned to the patterns. You observe how her eye contact changes when she laughs, when you speak vulnerably, when the two of you are alone versus in a group. Attraction is rarely loud, but it is consistent. And when you see these cues repeat themselves over time, especially paired with other forms of connection, then yes, something meaningful is likely unfolding. Ultimately, eye contact isn't just about seeing, it's about being seen. And the small, subtle ways a woman allows herself to keep looking at you despite her hesitations, despite the risks, those are often the moments where the truth slips through. It's tempting to treat every glance as a clue, every smile as a signal. But the truth is, not all eye contact is created equal. If we want to understand attraction, truly understand it, we have to learn to distinguish between what is social and what is personal, between what is meant to connect casually and what carries that deeper undercurrent of desire. This is where many people get lost. They confuse friendliness for flirtation and flirtation for connection. But just because someone is warm and engaging doesn't necessarily mean they're romantically interested. In our culture, especially in Western contexts, eye contact is often used to convey politeness, interest, attentiveness. A woman may look you in the eye simply because she's present, because she's confident, because she's learned that looking someone in the eye is a basic gesture of respect. That kind of eye contact is clear, steady, and emotionally neutral. It doesn't linger. It doesn't invite tension. It's a way of saying, I'm here, I see you, and I'm listening. Flirtatious eye contact, though it behaves differently, it dances, it pulses, it reveals and conceals at the same time. You can feel it when it happens. It doesn't just look at you. It looks into you, and often it holds on for just a second too long enough for you to feel slightly unsteady, long enough to stir that tiny question, what was that? That moment where attention turns into intrigue, that's the space where attraction lives. It's rarely loud, but it's unmistakable when you learn to recognize it. Esther Perel often reminds us that desire is fueled by the unknown, by the unpredictable, by the feeling that something might happen but hasn't yet. And flirtatious eye contact plays directly into that mystery. It doesn't confirm, it teases, it doesn't explain, it invites. So how can you tell the difference between friendly and flirtatious eye contact? It's not about looking harder. It's about becoming more attuned to how it feels. Friendly eye contact is stable. It exists to create ease, to facilitate dialogue, to make things smoother. It tends to be evenly distributed, given to everyone in a group, maintained consistently during conversation, and often accompanied by socially appropriate gestures like nodding or smiling politely. Flirtatious eye contact, on the other hand, is selective. It's given with intention. A woman may be speaking to a group, but her eyes return to you. Not once, but repeatedly. That return, that choosing is everything. She may look away when you catch her, but then look back again. And maybe when she does, there's that soft smile that doesn't quite reach her lips, but changes the temperature of the moment. Or maybe there's a moment where the two of you hold each other's gaze and no one speaks. And no one needs to. This kind of interaction doesn't necessarily mean she's in love with you, or even that she wants something concrete. But it does suggest that she's curious. That part of her is leaning in. And that curiosity is where attraction begins. What we're really paying attention to here isn't just the behavior, it's the emotional texture behind it. A friendly glance feels safe, predictable, contained. A flirtatious glance carries tension. It creates a sense of possibility. It leaves space for interpretation, and that space is exactly what keeps us coming back. From a psychological perspective, this is where our minds begin to engage with desire. We fill in the blanks. We read into the gaze. We imagine what might happen if we follow it. And often, that imagining becomes just as powerful as anything that actually happens. That's why eye contact is such a potent carrier of romantic energy. It's nonverbal but highly evocative. But here's something else to consider: flirtation, when it's real, is not manipulative. It's not about control or performance. It's about mutuality. When her eyes hold yours, she's not just expressing interest, she's also watching how you respond. She's reading your face, your energy, your willingness to meet her in that place of vulnerability. Because that's what real flirtation requires, not charm, but presence. So much of what we call chemistry is really about mirrored attention. The moment when two people recognize that they are noticing each other at the same time and choosing not to look away, that recognition is powerful. And it doesn't come from trying to impress or decoding every look like it's a hidden message. It comes from simply being aware enough to notice when someone is choosing you, not just socially, but emotionally. And yet, the danger lies in assuming not every lingering glance means what you hope it does. Not every smile is an invitation. That's why the goal is never to reduce attraction to a formula. It's to stay curious without getting attached to outcomes. To allow the possibility of connection without the demand for certainty. So, how do you respond when you suspect flirtation? You stay in the moment. You mirror the energy without rushing it. You let it be playful. You match the tension without trying to solve it. Because often, the most meaningful connections don't come from making a move. They come from making room. We've spent a lot of time now exploring the different ways attraction can speak through the eyes. Through subtle glances, micro movements, lingering tension. But if you take away only one thing from this conversation, let it be this: eye contact never exists in isolation. It lives inside a larger ecosystem of human interaction. And that context, emotional, physical, psychological, is what ultimately gives it meaning. We all want clear answers. We want to know, is she into me? What does that look mean? Does this eye contact mean something, or am I imagining it? But human connection isn't linear. It's layered, it's full of nuance, contradiction, and sometimes ambiguity. Esther Perel often says that in modern relationships, we suffer not from lack of information, but from lack of understanding. We know what people are doing, but not why, and nowhere is that more true than in how we read eye contact. Because a look by itself can mean many things. Prolonged eye contact could indicate attraction or deep concentration. Averted gaze might signal disinterest or nervousness, vulnerability, even deep respect. It's not the eye contact alone that tells the story, it's what surrounds it. So if you want to understand what a gaze really means, you have to ask, what else is happening? What's the mood of the interaction? What is her body doing? What are her words saying? And perhaps more importantly, what are they not saying? Context gives clarity. Without it, even the most charged look can lead us down the wrong path. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're talking to a woman at a social gathering. She maintains strong eye contact. She even holds your gaze while someone else is speaking. On its own, that could be a sign of interest. But if her posture is closed off, arms crossed, body angled away, then that eye contact might be performative or polite. Now imagine the same gaze, but this time her body is subtly leaning in. Her tone softens when she speaks to you, and she mirrors your gestures without realizing it. Suddenly, the eye contact becomes part of a fuller emotional message, one that suggests alignment, interest, and a sense of ease between you. Context is also emotional. One of the most revealing forms of eye contact happens not when everything is light and flirty, but when things turn quiet, when there's emotional weight in the room. Maybe you've just shared something personal, And she looks at you, and not out of obligation, but out of care. There's softness in her gaze. Her expression doesn't change dramatically, but she doesn't look away. That kind of eye contact isn't just about attraction. It's about presence. And often presence is far more seductive than performance. We're so used to looking for signs of attraction in moments of excitement, but real connection often shows up in the stillness, in the silences, in the moments between words when nothing is being performed and something real starts to emerge. The way someone looks at you when you're not performing for them, when you're just being yourself, that is often the most honest feedback you'll ever get. This is where eye contact becomes something deeper than flirtation. It becomes a mirror. A woman who's attracted to you emotionally as well as physically won't just look at you when it's convenient or comfortable. She'll seek your eyes in moments of uncertainty, in transitions, in quiet reflections. Not just to see you, but to see how you're seeing her. That exchange, subtle, reciprocal, unspoken, is where intimacy begins to grow. But even then, context matters. Her gaze might linger not because she's attracted to you, but because she's trying to understand you, or because she's present, and being present is part of who she is. So again, we return to this: attraction is not a puzzle to be solved. It's a dynamic to be experienced. What matters most is not whether you can identify the right eye contact signs, but whether you can stay present enough to read the room, to read her, and to read yourself in the moment. Are you available to the interaction? Are you bringing curiosity rather than neediness? Can you hold the ambiguity without rushing toward closure? When you can do that, something profound starts to happen. You begin to notice the subtleties, the slight shift in her gaze when you laugh, the way she searches for your eyes when someone else is talking, or how she lingers just a second longer when saying goodbye. These aren't just signs. They are invitations, but they're also tests, not in a manipulative way, but in a deeply human one. She's asking, can you meet me here? Not just in desire, but in awareness. Esther Perel often reminds us that it's not just about sex, it's about vitality, imagination, and presence. And the foundation of that presence is the ability to notice, not just with your eyes, but with your whole being. So, learn to read eye contact in context. Let the glance be the beginning, not the answer. Look at the whole picture, the emotional tone, the body language, the silences, the in-betweens. Because the most meaningful signals are never delivered in isolation. They're woven into the full tapestry of how someone shows up.